Good evening and welcome to I'm Chris Barnell.
Reporting from Moscow.
Tbilisi.
Times Square. May your dreams be your only boundaries in life.
Welcome to Let's Talk Money. My name is Harvey Cook and thank you for tuning in. My co-host Kelly Bolton is not able to join us today. We're kicking off our new season with none other than Coach Josh Pastner. Beloved by his team, school, and community, we are honored to have him on our show as we discuss the keys to being successful on the court and in life. So without further ado, I welcome the University of Memphis's head basketball coach, Josh Pastner, to our show.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Cook. I appreciate you being here, and
welcome.
Great setup. And this is honored to be part of your show, and be honored to be part of everyone here at producing the show here with Germantown High School.
Right. It's pretty obvious when people hear you speak and they see you on TV that you have a tremendous love for basketball and coaching. Tell us where that came from.
You know, I've have a great passion for the game. I've loved the game for my whole life. I knew early on that the chances of me ever playing in the NBA was slim to none. So I always knew the next best thing to playing I felt was coaching, because it allowed you to keep that adrenaline rush and being involved in the game. And I really put a lot of my energies and focus towards that. And fortunately, it's worked out. I've been able to achieve an unbelievable dream to be able to do that. And I also understand being a coach at Memphis, it's a gift. Like, it's not a right. It's, you know, it's a true privilege. It's a true blessing. It's a true gift. And I try not to ever take it for granted.
Other than teaching basketball, which you're pretty good at, what are some of the other things that you teach your players that don't have anything to do with basketball?
You know, we get guys from all walks of life, come from all different backgrounds, all different social backgrounds, economic backgrounds, different ways they've been brought up, and I really take a lot of joy and pride in trying to teach these guys, you know, lessons, life lessons, more so than just basketball lessons that they can be carried out on everyday walks of life, and whether that's, you know. As I talk to our guys all the time about what is popular is not always right, and what is right is not always popular, and about doing the right thing, and there are no secrets, and I believe in that, and making sure that guys do things the right way with the right principle. Obviously, in life, mistakes are going to be made. That's part of life. But can we learn from them? Can we make sure that the guys know that everything that they say or do is being watched, and they have a great responsibility. Whether they like it or not, is a great responsibility of being a role model and doing things right for young people, for older people. It doesn't matter who it is, because people are watching them.
Great. Can we discuss academics just a little bit? Last year, during the NCAA tournament, you mentioned that the University of Memphis academically would have been in the Final Four, which I thought was very impressive given the schools that were there. How did that happen, and tell us about that?
Yeah, you know, the last 2 years academically, the APR, which is the NCAA, goes by the APR, which is an academic progress rate that all goes into account of graduation, eligibility, GPA, all kinds of different things like that. And what they do with that is it's determined to see, you know, where you are academically. And if you are in a situation where you're not taking care of business, you can be left out of the NCAA tournament, which was shown at UConn a year ago. Right. You could have scholarship reductions, be left off of television, and the head coach can be suspended. There's a lot of consequences if you're not taking care of your business academically. And so last year and the year before, based on APR and from the Journal of Higher Education, we were 2 straight years in the Final Four based on just our academic success rate. We had a perfect APR score, guys graduating at record pace. We're as healthy as we've ever been academically in our situation here, and I'm very proud of that. Very, very proud of that. Now, the Final Four, to get to there in real life, you've got to rebound the ball better than what we've had, or defend a little better. But right. Academically, because these guys are student athletes. They aren't athlete students. They are student athletes, and them taking care of their business academically is a critical part of what we want.
And what do you tell your players, and even high school players that you meet and talk to, about how to balance being really good at basketball with being a good student? Because, you know, students that don't have to spend 3 or 4 hours a day playing basketball have a big advantage.
Yeah. Well, I also think, though, playing sports gives you a great advantage, too, because it gives you something to play for bigger than yourself. It gives you structure. It gives you discipline. I think people want structure and discipline. Maybe they don't always show it externally, but internally they do, and I think sports allows you to have that. But I also know for kids in high school, the NC2A is making it tougher now, starting in 2016, for that class, as in terms of eligibility requirements to be able to play Division I basketball, Division I sports, period. And if you're not taking care of business early in your high school academic, classroom setting, it can come back and bite you in the butt, meaning that you could be ineligible and not have an opportunity to play Division I sports.
One of the things that impressed me about your office when I visited you was in the halls, the only pictures you have are pictures of your players in their cap and gown. They graduated.
Yep.
There's no other pictures. Are there some examples that you could talk about of some players that had a tough time turning around academically that you could use as an example?
Yeah, I thought that was important in our office there, that we put that as an example when they walk in, about, because here we are talking about the importance of academics. When here they see it, it's a visual image. Right. Whether parents are coming in with their son as a potential recruit or whoever it may be. We spend a lot of time making sure guys do their job academically, and I don't put that off on the assistants. Like, I'm involved in that, and I hold guys accountable. If a guy screws up academically, he's going to run. He could, I've done it to the point where they've missed games. I've suspended them from actual live game competition if they're not taking care of their business academically. That's important to me, because I believe that you're going to follow through on what you're going to say. So if we're telling the parents or the recruits or whoever it is responsible for that young person that we're going to hold them accountable academically, we have to hold them accountable academically. And for that to happen, the head coach has to be heavily involved in that.
I remember last year you spent a lot of time talking about, this was about Joe Jackson, primarily about leadership on the floor and how you want him to be a leader. What are some of the leadership traits that you want your players to show on the floor, and also how does that carry over when they're through with basketball? Well,
you're right on that, and for any of the followers of the show out there watching, you're a veteran and former part of the military, and so you understand about leadership and a lot of those traits that go into it. And it's sort of the same thing, obviously, in a lesser extent in sports, because it's not a life and death situation, but it's the same type, a lot of similarities as in just in terms of the words that are used and the message that you want to be. That you want spread throughout your unit, organization, team, whatever it may be. So, we talk a lot about leading, and I think the first thing, I think everyone talks about, be a leader, be a leader, be a leader. You can't lead other people if you can't lead yourself. I think that's the first rule of thumb, because you can't be. I can't tell you to do X, Y, and Z if I'm trying to be a leader, then I'm doing the exact opposite, or I'm not holding myself accountable, or I tell you to go to class, but I'm not going to class. And so I think before someone can actually be a real leader, they've got to be able to lead themselves. And that's not easy. That's an everyday, all day, every time type of thing that you got to be very self-conscientious on wanting to do. And I think that's our first order of business, is trying to educate these guys about being a leader and leading yourself. That's a great message. We're going to take a short break for a moment. Welcome back to Let's Talk Money. If you're just tuning in, I'm Harvey Cook, and you are in for a real treat, as our guest today is Coach Josh Pastner. His reputation for excellence and passion for his team is unparalleled, and today we have been discussing his core values and strategies
to motivate and inspire others. Welcome back, Coach.
Thanks for having me back again. So looking forward to some more good questions.
Can you tell us who has inspired you in your life? Have you read books? Do you have mentors?
You know what? I read a lot. I'm a big reader. I try to study people, people that have done it at the highest level of different professions. I also ask a lot of questions. I ask questions to people who've maybe have been fired, and I've asked them, what could you have done differently looking back at it? And I've really gained a lot of knowledge from that way as well too. So I think there's maybe not one individual person. I really try to study people. I'm a question asker. I try to take as much information in, and then from there you got to develop your own philosophy, and hopefully it works out.
What would you say have been your greatest joy so far, other than your wins as a coach?
You know what? Great question, and because I winning it's such a natural high for me, and a loss is a devastating low, which isn't healthy, and it's really because I get high and low after each game, depending on a win or a loss. And it's very, very unhealthy, and it's something that I got to be better about if I want to be able to maintain in this profession for a long time. That being said, other than take that out, I really get great sense of pride in two things. One, when guys are graduating and they're wearing that cap and gown and they're graduating, and secondly, when I get a bunch of emails saying, hey, your guys have represented the program the right way. They met somebody just randomly at a supermarket and helped somebody out and signed an autograph and was very respectful and gracious and all those type of things. Those type of things I get a lot of joy out.
And that's when they do that well, that's a great reflection
Absolutely.
on you, I think,
yeah, well, I appreciate
in the school.
That. Yeah.
What do you do as a team and as a school for community service, and how do y'all feel about that?
Community service, community outreach is critical for us. It's something that's very important to me. It's very important to our university. It's important to our program, to our athletic department. We're involved in a lot. I'm personally involved in a lot, and our team is involved in a lot. And I think it's something important because you see something greater than just what you're involved in, especially if you're invested in that. And I try to bring people to come to practice all the time, who've maybe, whether it's kids from St. Jude or Le Bon, or who's going through life-threatening, situations, or people who've been in a wheelchair or paralyzed, who are not able to walk any longer. And because I want our guys to understand that what the privilege they have of an attitude of gratitude. I want them to always understand about an attitude of gratitude, to be so thankful that they're able to get up and down the court, and to have any negative. I don't want them ever have to, I don't ever want them to hear them say, I have to go to practice, or I have to do this. My thing, I stop them dead in their tracks when they say, man, you better start saying, I get to do this, I get to do that. And when you try to have that difference of a mindset, things change and your outlooks looks differently. And it's part of my educational process to our young men.
Right. As you know, and this question is because we're doing this from a high school, a lot of young people today have a sort of a now attitude. Mm-hmm. Everything's fast, the internet.
Of course.
How do you talk, what do you tell your players, and maybe even your own children, about what's important long term and not just now?
Well, I've been dealing with it even coming back from our Canada trip, and where guys who maybe didn't have as successful trip or didn't maybe play as much as they would like want to know, well, now, I'm trying to explain to them about the big picture, the long term, not the short term. And I just think in the day and age that we live in, a lot of it is now. It's just like people have all these different things for the exercise, modules where they can say you can do this in 2 days, 3 days, in 1 week, There is no secret to anything. You know what the secret is? It's through hard work. It's just simple, sound. It's whatever it is. I don't care if it's exercise. I don't care if it's basketball, if it's school, whatever you want to do in life, it comes down to hard work. It comes down to doing it the right way, not cutting corners, and staying the course. And you're going to be, you just got it. Those are the formulas to achieve where you want to get to. All the other stuff, the fluff stuff, doesn't happen. And it takes time. There is no magic formula or a quick snap of the fingers where all of a sudden you're going to achieve what you want without hard work.
You know, unfortunately, most of your players are not going to play professional basketball.
Correct. It's very hard to get there.
How do you prepare them to be successful in whatever they're going to do after they play ball if they don't play basketball?
Well, Mr. Cook, I tell you what, there's 450 roster spots in the NBA. That's it. And there's only about 45 to 50 available every year that become available. I mean, it's literally nearly impossible to make it to the NBA. And probably the hardest challenge we have, every one of our guys, not only here at Memphis, but all across the country, think they're going to play in the NBA. And it's nearly impossible when you look at the numbers. So you have to be so exceptional and so good to be so elite to be able to get there. So what we try to do is prepare to them is just understanding about, one, hopefully understanding about the importance of education, getting their degree, but also about, one thing about college is not all just about academic book work. It's also about understanding time management, understanding about responsibility, accountability, doing the right thing. I mean, media training, being able to get up in front of a class and present something as it would be maybe in a business, situation. So all those things go hand in hand, and we spend a lot of time trying to educate our guys on that. And hopefully when they leave, we only get 4 years with them at the max, sometimes 5, but and a lot of times less. So you just try to hope you do the best you can to help have them prepared as they embark in the real world, as we like to say.
Sure. I believe I've heard you say before that you really teach your players to be the best that they can be in
Yes.
everything they do, not just basketball.
Right.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's important to me, is being the very best you can be every single day. It's sort of the process, it's sort of the course that you're on without the end game, not worrying about the end result. It's about doing right every day, whether it's on the court or off the court, doing right. And as one of my famous lines are, and I'm sure, and I know they use in the military and law enforcement and everything else, and is the pain of discipline, far outweighs, the pain of regret far outweighs the pain of discipline. Meaning, if you have regrets because you didn't have the discipline to do right every day, it far outweighs the pain of discipline. No one wants to have any regrets. That's major pain, and that's why having discipline on anything that you're doing is the important thing.
It's a great message.
Yeah.
Great message. We're going to take a short break. Thank you for joining us on Let's Talk Money. I'm Harvey Cook, and with me now is our student moderator, McLean Myers. Today we are honored to have Coach Josh Pastner with us. With just a little time left, we want to jump back in and finish our exciting conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you for letting me come on and ask a couple questions. Now, since it is really, a lot of schools in Memphis are beginning to start school, and, students are going in, freshmen are going to high school for the first time. And every year you meet new players that you have over that past year really recruited. I mean, if I was coming to play college basketball for you or at any college, I would be nervous as heck. So what are some of the things that you kind of do to help them adjust to that Division I basketball? Right.
Well, again, Mr. Cook, Mr. Mayers, I appreciate you both having me here. I think that, one of the things that I talk about is, because when guys are coming in as freshmen, it is a nerve-wracking thing. I don't care if you're a basketball player, a student athlete, or if you're just a student. It is a little bit nerve-wracking. But I remember my first days going to middle school or high school or college. It's always nerve-wracking those first couple days. And so, but on the other hand, you're coming in and you've got to kind of get them ready, and you're pushing them and trying to have them succeed. And the good thing being a student athlete, there's a lot of structure, because you're just not kind of thrown in the wolves in a sense. There's a lot of structure. Your days are really planned out. So I think that really helps those guys feel comfortable.
Yeah. Now, I understand that you just got back from a Canada trip. You went and played a lot of colleges up in there.
Yep.
What is that like for, veteran players and new players coming in, going to play these international colleges?
It was good for us. Playing in Canada was really good for us, the competition. And we were able to see some of the strengths and weaknesses of our team, what we have to do to get better, who's can do certain things and who can't. So the trip, I wasn't worried about the win and losses on the trip, because it doesn't go on the record. I was more concerned about this being an evaluation to really see where we're at, what we need to do, and then from there, really work on it in the fall to be ready for our countable games, once we get going in November.
Yeah. So I guess, but you've said in the earlier answer that structure is a huge part of being part of a team. Now, what is one of the biggest challenges when you have a group of individuals and you're trying to coach them, to a championship?
You know what? That's a great question. Mr. Mayers, I think that we have one of the things that we deal with is, when you're dealing with a team, especially a young team, in this day and age, and you wanting to be in journalism and in your future, that I think in this day and age with Twitter, social media, and everything else, there are so many people can get to these guys that if something doesn't go exactly as planned, they can have a lot of clutter, and you're trying to keep the clutter out. And it's not an easy thing, and that's part of the process of trying to build the team together. It doesn't happen overnight, building a team or putting a team together. It takes time. There's going to be highs and lows, peaks and valleys, and I think those are one of the challenges of trying to keep all the outside stuff that they hear that can really clutter their mind to keep them locked in and focused to the task at hand.
Yeah. So, as the season really goes on, obviously, a perfect season is so hard, and, while you don't want losses, there could be losses in more ways than just the game-wise. Right. What are some of the things that you're going to tell your players this season when they maybe are doubting themselves or they're going into a game not really in that positive mindset that a player needs? Well,
we can never take anyone for granted, and we got to treat every opponent with such great respect, because in this day and age, everyone is well coached. Everyone's got good players. We have to be ready to play. And if you try to take a possession off or a play off, or you're not ready to play, you're going to get yourself beat or put yourself in a hole where it's going to be hard to come back from. And that's something that we talk about to our guys. And if we're not charged up, having that motor, being an energy giver every time we step on the floor, we've got an opportunity to get beat. So we don't have time to have negative energy. We don't have time to, as I like to say, feel sorry for ourselves. We don't have time to guys pointing the fingers or the blame game or having the pity party. In fact, this year what I'm doing is, if any guys feels kind of whining, I got this thing over in the corner where they're going to have lemonade and ice cream and put some rainbows and butterflies and say, you go sit over there, because that's how we're going to treat you. Either we're going to treat you like, because this is men's college basketball, or we're going to treat you like a little child and go over there. And so we don't have time for anyone to feel sorry for themselves. And no negative attitude. You got to be ready to go with great energy. And if we do that, we can have a great season.
Yeah, I think that applies to, a lot of things that you do in life is that you have to have that positive mindset.
That and what happens, people get themselves in trouble when they start pointing the finger, playing the blame game, or feeling sorry for themselves. They can't do that. You got to be positive. You got to keep moving. Even when you get knocked down, you got to stay upbeat and be an energy guy with great energy, because positive energy is contagious with everyone that you're around, whether it's a team, business, organization, family, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, what are some of the sacrifices that you have made in the past couple of years that have, really moved the team forward, I guess, and just maybe sacrificing personal life for the team, or vice versa?
I get asked that question a lot, like about the sacrifices of the job, and I'm not saying this just because Mr. Cook's here or anyone. I look at that. We're very grateful, and it's a gift to be able to do what we're doing. I get paid way more than I should get paid. It's the market and what it is, and everything else. But when you're looking at people like who are in the line of duty, whether it's in the military, law enforcement, people who are saving lives, firefighters, and every time they step out in that real world, you're putting your life on the line. And so as a basketball coach, I keep it in perspective. You travel a lot and everything else, but because of people like Mr. Cook and people like that, the men and women out there who have served or doing currently or within the law enforcement or whatever it may be, they allow us to be able to play the great game, coach the great game, be around the kids, and do great things. So again, it's one of those things I try to tell our young men about: being grateful, keeping things in perspective, and understanding that everything that we do is a true gift.
Yeah. And I guess my final question is, is there specific moments during this season and this year or in years past where you kind of stop and you think, this is completely worth it, I'm doing exactly what I meant to do?
Absolutely. There's not a time that goes by that I don't stop and say, wow, how grateful is this, how awesome is this, going into the NCAA tournament. It's an opportunity, and I don't want to repeat myself, even though I have a bad habit of doing it, but it is a gift. And the second you forget that it is a gift, it will all be taken away. Yeah. And so I'm just very appreciative of having the opportunity.
Well, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
What a great show. McLean and I are definitely filled with Tiger fever. Once again, we thank our guest, Coach Josh Pastner, for joining us today. He's a true asset ambassador for our city. We hope you'll join us again next month on Let's Talk Money.